All right, this is video 3 for creating a GUI application, and we're going to be doing this Hello World application here. So in the next example, what we want to do is look at what they call the Toolbox Controls. These are controls, like you can see here is a command button. There's 3 of them, and there's also 2 more at the bottom, and then there's also a control object right here of a picture. All right, so to do that, underneath View, we've got an option called the Toolbox, and you can also open it by Control-Alt-X, and that opens up the toolbox. I use this a lot, so I pin it, and you'll see there it just puts on another window because we're going to be using that a lot. And then what we want to do is find the tools we need to design our application. So here's our application again. To mimic that. So we can see we need to start off right here with a command button. So if you look at the most common tools in the toolbox is a pointer control or a button control. And we've got check boxes and all sorts of other controls that we'll look at later. So what I want to do is I want to put on a command button here. So I can do it in a couple ways. I can simply grab that and drag it over. That's one way. So I'm going to need that. And then I'm also going to need another couple buttons here. So I can either double click it. That's another way to put it on. And I can simply lock it in place. Another button right there. I need 2 more buttons down at the bottom. And you can see how fast that is to add a control. So I've got those 3 and those 2 at the bottom. Now I need a control right here. This is a picture. So I'm going to look down the list. And there's a picture box right there. So double click that. And I'll stick that right there for now. So we're almost done with our controls. So next thing I'm going to do is, if you remember the functionality, the purpose of this is to display a message here or a label. Hello World here and Hello World here. So there's still 2 more controls we need to add. These are called label controls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one right here called label control. And I'm going to drop it right about here. And of course, we have to size it and put all sorts of stuff in there, but that's fine for now. And that's how we add our controls to the form. So from there, I would suggest that we go in and start looking at the properties. Once we've added the controls to the form, the next step would be to go over to the properties and one control by control start making the property changes. So if you notice, what the first one should say is Hello World number 1. So let's start with that one right there. So let's select the object and the control object, and let's start off with giving it an internal name. So this is a button. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it as a button, but I'm going to call it Hello World, and it's going to be the first button. So I can uniquely identify what the name of that particular control is. And we use something called the camel case. So camel case just means I give it the name of the object, and then I don't use spaces. I use capitalizations for each word thereafter. And they call that camel case, I guess, because it's like the humps on a camel's back, I guess. All right, so that's the internal name. And then further down at the bottom, you can see now as soon as I gave it a new name, it changed here to button Hello World 1. And when I go down to the bottom, what do we want to call that one? Well, it's going to be called Hello World, just like the application. And when I select enter, you'll notice now it says Hello World, and in my program it says Hello World number 1. So let's go back and change that to Hello World number 1. Push enter. And unfortunately I've typed out too much text for this, so I might have to expand it a little bit. And there it is. You can see Hello World 1 there. All right, so you get the idea. So this one right here as practice would be button, and this would be Hello World 2. And go down to the bottom, and let's call it Hello. Let's try Hello World 2. Let's try that and make that button a little bit larger. All right. And then finally, this last one, if you remember how the design and purpose of the program was, it was completely empty. Oh, okay. So let's go down here to that control. Let's give it a name. So this is Hello World 3, that's the 3rd button, and I did that right. Go down to the bottom, and let's do that. All right, so I'm going to pause there, and we'll carry on in the next video.